Are you working on yourself?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how are you working on yourself? Because this year you got to work on yourself. How are you doing it?
Just staying as aware as I possibly can.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Nice.
and I really can only do that when I'm as still as possible. And just paying attention to when I'm having opinions about things and when I'm judging things inside of me and outside of me. Especially my own thoughts, you know, when I'm looking at them and I have an opinion about them or I'm judging them, it really hinders my ability to pay attention to everything that's going on outside of me. So just trying to pay more attention every day.
Okay. Amazing. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm very ashamed.
You feel ashamed of the anger and hatred in you?
Mm-hmm.
And why?
Because it stifles the talents and gifts that I have.
Speak up for me.
It stifles the talents and gifts that I have because it leaves me stagnant. It leaves me in a place where I start to regret most people that I've cared about or loved in my life. And I've given so much love to them to the point where I will allow them to walk all over me because I love them so much and I believe in unconditional love. And so I get ashamed and upset in myself because I say, wow, why did I allow that person to do that to me? And which I actually discovered, what they would tell me is that, oh, well, because I believe that you're such a gifted and talented person, I wanted to kind of toughen you up when it comes to the real world. And when I actually saw that, it gave them more credibility in my mind.
And you say you gave them a lot of love?
Yes.
And where did you get that love from that you gave them?
In action, whatever they would ask me to do, I just do it because it was, you know, they would do so much for me, and I had to meet it at the middle.
Oh, so they did a lot for you, and then as a result, you did a lot for them?
Yeah, and then...
Did you feel like you owed them something because they had done a lot for you?
Well, I mean, it comes from when I was a child. I was the fifth child of my family, and they were all older than me. And, you know, they all left the house. Like, they had to leave my mom's house, and I just felt all alone. So it left me with a lot of abandonment issues to where, you know, if I have like a good friend of mine, I would try to hold on as tight to them as possible to a point where they feel they're suffocating. Then when they leave, then I feel like, you know, oh, like, you know, they always do. And I get deep in my emotions to the point where I think like, well, Fred, they have to exit at one point. They have to go someplace. And then when I actually realized that, I was like, okay, well, yeah.
Amazing.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, a lot of sense.
Okay.
Amazing. Nick, I want to ask, and then we're going to close this out. You said you feel ashamed of the anger and hatred in you because of what?
Because I care about what people think, and that's why.
Oh, and so who is the person that cares?
Well, the person that cares, you know, I said I'm shallow because, you know, I don't mind if people think that about me.
But who
I want to answer your question. But I said I'm shallow, right? But I already know that I don't really care. And the reason I know this is because when I'm aware of myself and the only times I'm feeling that shame and anger and about that anger and hatred, I don't even notice that I've identified, okay? And I'm acting it out, and I'm feeling the shame because in this whole situation, I'm just like, I'm this angry person, and I'm this or I'm this, that. And so I'm seeing people see me, and I'm thinking that that's me, that they're seeing me. But whenever I calm down and let it go, I know that I don't really care, and that I'm like, I'm like a free person with my flaws, and I just don't care if people see. And so that's how I know it's not me. the person that, the one that force that's caring about that. I don't know if I made sense there. But that's why I know it's not me.
And since you know that, why you keep going along with it?
Because I've had the same question, and that's why I said because I'm shallow. Because if I know this, wouldn't I want to go with just being free and you see what I'm saying here? Like if I knew this and I knew that there was a way to live like that, just be free with flaws, who cares? Like if I really wanted that, why don't I just live it? I'm not, because I'm shallow, because I care about what people think. I want people to see me a certain way. I want people to, and that's the conclusion I came up to.
To add to what's been said, and you're right, there in real reality and honestly, there is no person there to be ashamed of anything. It's an illusion. You and I and no one on earth has ever done anything wrong. You have never done anything to be ashamed of. You've never done anything right either. And so you've neither done wrong or right. And so this false identity that you're protecting, because that's what, like when Nick was saying he's shallow, right? There's no such thing as a shallow Nick or Anchor Baby. They're just a person that can't see that they're not all these identities that's inside of them. There's no such thing as a failing mother. Or, you know how you said sometimes you feel like you fail your daughter. That is an illusion. It's not even real. You have never failed your daughter at all. But you have identified with this idea of being mother, and a mother got to be a certain way. And if it doesn't go the way that a mother should be, all these identities, you're picking them up thinking that they're you, and now you're trying to fulfill them, and they're never going to work because it's all an illusion. Really, it's not you at all. You're not either succeeded with your daughter or failed. It's these things that's controlling you to make you think that. And this anger is not even you. It's still another false identity. It's the devil in us, and we think that it's us. You have never had love to give anyone. That's why you were upset when you didn't get it back. When they did whatever wrong to you, you were upset because it wasn't real love. It wasn't love, it was the devil hatred, and you calling it love. Because real love doesn't require anything from anyone. It doesn't have to pay anybody back because you don't owe anything. It didn't come from you. It truly comes from God. And so there is nothing to be ashamed about. You got to work on dying from all these things that you think you are. When that fade away, you'll be free. Yes, ma'am. Do you understand that? Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but it's I guess, because I'm seeing my daughter, like I see myself. I see when she reacts
Right.
in anger, and I'm like, wow, that's all me.
Because you have imposed those identities on her too.
Right. So in a way that I mean, I understand you're saying it's not me, it's the devil in me. I get that, but I still see that I have affected her. You see what I'm saying?
But
Like,
you have not affected her at all. It's the same possession as her that's in you now. That's what's been passed on to her. And if you can overcome these images of yourself, this reputation of caring about somebody think you look silly or not, right? If you overcome those things, then your daughter will too, because the light in you will shine on her, and she will start to see that she's none of those things either. But
so when that happens, I just, like I mentioned before, I just kind of, when I get in my head, I'm like, oh, geez, I blew it, blah, blah, blah. And then I go, okay, why am I having this discussion with, the demon inside of me? So I'm like, okay. And then I move on, and I don't judge it. But then I kind of want to apologize to my daughter, and sometimes I do. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not doing it anymore. And it's just like this conversation,
well, stop conversating with the devil inside your mind, your body, and inside of other people. Stop it.
So just
don't
let
do
it go.
Just
like
let it go.
Just
Real, as Shauna, somebody was saying, you see it. That's all you need to do is see it. You need to just see these false, someone else mentioned, these false identities that over the years you pick it up and it feels like it's you because you've identified with it. And only you say, oh, it's just so hard. It's just so hard. When I'm going to, I keep stop apologizing to your daughter. You've already apologized. And so stop apologizing because that's going to traumatize her as well.
Yeah.
Because she's going to start thinking, I trust my mother, but she keep doing the same thing. She keep apologizing. And she's going to pick up that as an identity. It's enough for you to see that it's not you. Yes, I yelled at her, but it's not me. And move on so that it can disappear. It will die.
Okay.
Because when you argue with it, focus on it, try not to do it, you're giving it life. You have to totally let go by realizing that it's not you at all. And it comes in all forms and shapes and all kinds of ways. But it's not you.
Okay. That makes sense.
And there are so many of them too.
Yeah.
Because, we've been around for a long time. And so we've picked up so many false identities. Being ashamed is not us. Just think about this. God never condemned you at all. God is not a vengeful God. He's only love. There's none of this stuff in him. So who is this that making me feel ashamed or making me feel revengeful? He is all love, and that's what you're trying to get back to by dying from these false images. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so stop fighting with it and just be aware. Just see it. And the light will destroy the darkness. But as long as you think that is you, then it's not going to be, you're just picking up other identities and you're never going to die from them. That make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And when I do see it, I am grateful because I know in the past I would never have seen that.
Yeah.
It would have been like in complete just nothing's wrong with me, and now I'm able to see like, oh, that's just not me.
Yeah. How many fears do you have? How many things you're afraid of?
I would say none.
None? You have no fear?
I mean, I just like I can't think of something like, oh, this
I see.
is what I have.
And the reason I asked because I was talking to some people the other day, and they were talking about how they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to face this or that. They're afraid of this, right? And so they were thinking they had a whole bunch of fears in them. I'm like, no, you just have one. One great fear. That's being separated from the Father. That's being separated from being a whole person. You're divided. And in being divided, you got all these things that the devil is using against you. But once you get rid of that great fear by forgiving and realizing it's not you, you'll be done. You'll be fine. You'll just start living. And that's why, like what Nick was saying, that he's shallow, right? So he has to let these things happen so he can see that this is just another identity and just see it and look at it and take the pain of it, the body pain of it. It'll disappear. It will disappear. And there'll be no more being shallow. That spirit will be gone. And then another identity will come. And then another one. The interesting thing about it is that these things can really be over with just like that. You could really, because we're already free, we could really walk out this room free forever. But because we live in time, instead of living in the present, staying present, we drift off into these different identities, so we go back into time. And that's what seemed like so long or so hard. Because I have older people tell me, oh, I'm too old. I'm going to be dead before I wish I had found this, because they're living in time. If they stayed present, they would never think of themselves as being too old. But if you think of yourself as being 80, now you got to rush before 90 because you don't want to, you got to get some stuff done. Or if you think of yourself as 80, you think yourself too old, I'm not young enough. You got to stop living in time and stop having all these different ideas, because all you're doing is creating time for yourself, and that's where the devil lives. You want to practice, you got to work at being present. You got to work at it. During the day, practice being present. So all these identities can fade away. You're none of the things that we think we are. Zero. Everything we think we are, we're not. You're really, really not. It's just possession. You've been possessed. So there's nothing to be ashamed about. God is not holding anything against us. That's the devil that giving us all these reasons to be ashamed and add names to us and this crazy stuff. That make sense?
That makes sense.
Any question about that? You got to let this ego die. And it's only painful because you're afraid that you're losing yourself. But you're not losing yourself. You're losing a not you. And you don't know what the real you really look like right now, but you will if you stay with it. All right? Any questions? Brand new biblical question. So stop in closing with that. Let these things happen. If you got to face someone, face them. If you got to speak up, speak up. In the right time. Don't just speak up just to be speaking up. Because the devil will make you make a fool of yourself in that too.